Good morning about the old fear monster. If you feel like you get to a place in your business that holds you back because you're fearful, sometimes we don't even recognize that it is fear in our businesses. So we're going to talk about fear, try to help you come across with some strategies that help you, one, identify that you have that problem, and some of you may already understand that you have that problem. So we're gonna dig into that a little bit. We have a super special guest this morning, and fear is going to be something that we need to master and kick to the curb. I've long said that I've made fear my BFF. So if I start feeling fearful now, I usually step forward. I step into it, but that wasn't always the case. I used to be very focused on fear and I let it hold me back. And that might be where you are. So we're going to dig into that a little bit today and figure out how to overcome that. Okay, a couple of quick things. If you're brand new, never been on my show before, my name is Kim Garst. I'm an online business strategist or a profit strategist, particularly. I love helping people make more money in their businesses. And if you're new, never been on the show before, just introduce yourself. Say, hey, hashtag new, okay? Um, and quickly, I'm going to do a quick sound check. Are you guys hearing an echo? I'm hearing an echo. I don't know if it's me or what's going on, but I'm just doing a quick sound check. While you guys are telling me if you're hearing an echo or not, I'm going to do a couple of other things I want to tell you about. One, if you know other people that struggle with fear or are entrepreneurs, please, sprinkle us out into the world or tag someone that would get value from this. Yes, okay, there is an echo. All right, so we're going to figure out. So, Suzy, will you turn your mic off for a second? That's something we didn't do a moment ago. I'm not sure if it's me, and I think it is. So is your mic off now? Okay. So yes, it is me. All right. So annoying when I have tech issues, y'all. All right. I'm going to different mic and see if that helps us any. Okay. All right. Whew. That's a little better. All right. Good. Okay. Oh, I can still hear it. All right. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to proceed, and I'm going to try a couple of things to eliminate the echo here in a moment. All right. Rhonda's saying that's slightly better. All right. Okay. We do giveaways on every one of my shows. So if you would love to do the win today, the thing that we're giving away is our special guest, Suzy's book, 50 Ways to Celebrate Life After 50. You guys, I don't know about you, but I'm a little over that age bracket. And yeah, I'm all about that. So, two winners today. And it's exciting. I'm excited that you have the opportunity potentially to win this. So I'm a little distracted by the audio. I'm going to be working on that hopefully as we go. But I want to give a special shout out real quick to our sponsor. Our sponsor for today's show is Restream. Now, Restream is a live streaming tool. It's my live streaming tool of choice these days. It allows me to go live to multiple social media channels at the same time. So right now we're live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and a few Facebook groups all at the same time. So it's a super easy way to interface for like things like cool transitions, pulling in your viewers' comments, adding customized text, interviewing guests. It's all a really nice, easy tool to do your live shows or interviews or just go live with. You can pull in your logo, custom graphics, videos. It is the perfect platform for new and experienced creators alike. But this is the best part. If you've been looking for a live streaming tool that allows you to go live in multiple places at the same time, Restream's a great option, and you can get 25% off for life, y'all. So 25% off for life. So check that out. You can get the details in the area down under. It's just a simple link to click, and you can pop in. I don't even think you have to pop in the discount code. You get the code automatic. You get the discount automatically. Okay, so all that. Echo, yeah, I know, y'all. I'm going to work on the echo here just in a minute after I get Suzy introduced, and I'll do some work on this. Hopefully, I can get it fixed because it is so annoying. So we have a few people in that 50 range, right? So no, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot. It's like nobody ever wants to share their age or their weight. Like, right? I'm just saying. I'm not going to share my weight, but I'll be happy to tell people my age. I don't. I think age is just a number anyway. Okay, so let me share real quick and introduce you guys to Suzy. Suzy has helped hundreds of midlife women, people who are in mid-range that we've just been talking about, get unstuck and get excited about their lives again through private and group coaching. And her new midlife program, she has her popular podcast, Women in the Middle, Loving Life After 50. Listeners and clients praise her for being refreshingly upbeat in the way she coaches on the ups and downs of midlife with wisdom and humor. I think you guys are going to love her. She's also the master certified life coach, midlife mentor, certified Zentangle teacher, which I want to know more about, and an entrepreneur. She's more creative, having more fun, more fulfilled than ever. We were just talking about this beforehand. We're all about our choices. As we get older, we realize we have choices. We don't have to settle anymore. So you guys will give a big shout out to Suzy. Hey, Suzy, could we get together?
Hi, Kim. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're here, Suzy. We met through you coming through one of my courses, right? Is that now? I know it seemed like you had been tuned into my training for a while, but you went through some of my courses, and I realized you are the perfect epitome for so many of my community. We're getting to that place where we're kind of midlife, and fear is still holding some of us back.
Oh my gosh, the first thing that when I met you, it was because I was afraid. First of all, I'm 58 and I'm proud of it. Let's bring on the no, I don't, I like you. I don't want to talk about my weight, but the age, I'm all in. But the first reason I reached out to you was because Facebook Live had just come out and I was afraid of it. And you had a $7 offer. And I thought, well, come on. And you walked, I felt like you were holding my hand. I was really afraid of it. And you did. It was awesome.
Oh, that just makes my day. Seriously, anytime somebody tells me I've been able to help and make a transformation, that's my whole zen, for sure. So, can you share just a little bit around your journey to becoming a midlife coach? I mean, what did that look like? How did you get on this road to serving this space essentially?
Well, it was all fear-based. That's exactly what happened with me. So what happened was I was, working away I worked in health education. That was my main jam for 27 years. So I had a master's in applied social psychology and I got going in the direction of health promotion. And it morphed into health education, actually in a publishing department in a hospital. And it was right at the time where even publishing was starting to morph in a massive way and go to digital publishing. So it started to be more of a content management issue, even when I was working there. And then one day I got laid off. I got the knock at the door, which was actually a knock at the door. And I remember looking up in slow motion and I could just see something wasn't right. I don't normally get a knock at the door at that hour. And I looked at my boss, who had just become my boss 2 weeks before. We'd been on the same team for 15 years. And I said, like, what's going on? He said, you're wanted for a meeting. You're needed for a meeting. And I went, oh, okay. And I just looked at him and I said, is HR going to be there? And he said, yes. And that was that. So it was one of those situations, though, that happened after 5 years of being stuck. And so for 5 years, I was spinning around thinking I was confused, asking everybody I knew, can you please help me? What do you think I'm good at? And whining, doing my fair share of whining about what it was like to be so stuck. So for me, it was 45 to 50. That's when I was really stuck and confused. And it didn't occur to me until several years in to that phase that I might actually be more than confused. Like, I wonder if I was afraid. I wasn't sure, but I wondered if I was afraid. And it wasn't until I got laid off and I discovered life coaching, that's when I started to understand it was all because I was afraid. And even with the fear, I didn't even understand where the fear was coming from. I thought, am I just afraid to apply for jobs? I haven't applied for an actual job in 19 years. The last time I applied for a job was out of the newspaper. There was no LinkedIn. There were no cell phones. Nothing was going on like that. Actually, that last job I had, that was the first job where I had a computer and a mouse. Like, I had a mouse, my own mouse at my desk. So a lot had changed. And it took me getting really deep into life coaching and understanding emotions, because most of us are so disconnected, that it really was fear. And it wasn't just fear of applying for a new job and figuring out what I wanted to do, but it was also related to my age. And I'd actually wondered, even though I thought for 27 years that seniority and having a long-term job was the gold standard, and that was really good, that my seniority and my education and my experience was really going to help me, I had a secret fear that maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'd been kidding myself. And that's kind of where what it all happened for me. And since then, I've really enjoyed helping other people figure out fear and how it's holding them back without their permission, I might add.
Yeah. So, we spoke about this just real quick before the show started, and I had a speaking engagement, one of the first ones I've had since COVID, this past Saturday. And one of the other speakers was Kim Kiyosaki. And Kim is, some of you may recognize her name, but she is the author of Rich Women. Her husband is the rich man, poor dad, or I don't even know. I get the name of his book, but a very, very popular, very impactful couple. And a lot of the questions that were asked of her revolved right back to fear. She talked a lot about fear and how people were held back because they were fearful of this, that, or the other thing. Sometimes we know we're fearful and sometimes we don't. And I think it's a matter of opening our mindset. She talked a lot about mindset too, and understanding that mindset and being aware of and open to the fact that fear could be holding us back. Sometimes we don't even see it. We don't even want to acknowledge it, that we could potentially be letting fear stop us. So fear has been a big part of my entrepreneurial journey, and honestly, it's a part of every successful person's or not successful person's life, because we either step into it and conquer it, or we let us keep us where we are. So I want you to think about that in the context as we go through this today. you know, you can stay where you are if you're happy with that, or you can make the decision to not let fear ground you. So anyway, I just want to put that out there. So when it came, you talked about life, you talked about mindset, and how did you, though, when you realized you had a fear factor, how did you go about conquering that, Susie?
Well, it wasn't immediate, that's for sure. But first of all, it's this willingness to even look at it. And so I like to think about fear as fuel now, because it is an opportunity, like an invitation to see what's going on up there in your mind. So if you don't just go, well, I'm afraid and that's it. So that might be what you're doing now, or coming up with a million excuses about why you can't do this or that. But if you recognize fear, you're like, wow, I think I might be afraid. And instead of just being like at the effect of it and going, well, that's it, I'm afraid. People who are afraid can't do this sort of thing. If you allow it as an invitation to just be curious and, here's a big one, compassionate with what's going on with you, that's the first step, is just really to take a look. So you want to recognize and acknowledge that you might be afraid. That is a feeling. And you might want to check in with yourself. When have you been experiencing that kind of feeling in other parts of your life? Like if you're not sure it's fear, I'm sure there are other examples of times when you've been afraid that you can identify that feeling. And then you want to be curious about it rather than just letting it close you down. Does that make sense?
It really does. And I'd like to dig into a little bit more. I've always said that, when people say, you can't do it, you can't do this or you can't do that. And fear comes into that too. People are, when people feed you their reality, you begin to internalize that and it makes you fearful. And I've always said, to your point, use that crap as fuel, not let it get under your skin and hold you back. So it's kind of the same thing. But can you talk about a little bit about like maybe three top fears that you see the most? I'll just speak for myself. I see a lot of people our age who, they're getting to be empty nesters. They want to they know they have something big in them. They don't know exactly what it is, and they don't know sometimes how to even get it out. And lots of times fear is that, it holds them back. So what are those, like, what are the things that you see the most, like the top three things that you see, fear factors that hold us back from stepping into the next thing?
Well, it's the thoughts, right? So the thing about fear is that fear is an emotion, just like any other emotion, and it has come from the way you're interpreting things. So it's coming from your thoughts. So I would say a real common one is that it's not really a surprise. It's that I'm going to suck. I'm going to fail, right? So that's a big one. Another big one is about being judged. Somebody's going to say something. Somebody is going to not like what I'm doing. And another one is that you're not good enough. It's kind of related to imposter type of thoughts, is that I'm not, who do I think I am? I'm not the best person for this. I'm going to be found out. I'm not as smart as I like to think I am. I'm not really capable. So that kind of bucket of thoughts, those are the ones I think are the most prevalent when it comes to fear. But it really depends on your own experience and your own story, right? So that's one of the actual techniques that's really good idea to dive into, is to really figure out how much of this is just the way I'm thinking about it and how much of this is an actual reality. Like, what about this situation that I'm afraid of is a fact? Like, if I had a whole bunch of people in the room, everybody would absolutely agree on the black and white portion of this thing, whatever it is, versus the way I'm interpreting it, which is the way I'm thinking about it, right? So 10 people in a room may not think that a saxophone solo is scary. But when that happened to me in high school, I thought I was going to die. But many people would think, oh, it's an opportunity. I love being on the stage. I love blah, blah, blah. But for me, I honestly thought I was going to die. And I had to time out, how many times and when I was going to go spend some quality time in the washroom before that performance. That was Spinning Wheel, by the way. I had a baritone sax solo, and it was one of the highlights of high school. It was actually one of the highlights, but I was scared to death. I felt the fear, but I did it anyway. So that's another thing to remember, is that sometimes we're fearful. We have evidence that we are fearful, but we did it anyway. And that's, again, when you're curious and compassionate about what you're experiencing and the way you might be procrastinating or pulling back, then you can remember lots of things that happened to you where you were afraid, but you had a moment and you pushed forward.
Yeah, it's so funny. So I'm going to give you all a quick little. My husband is known for it. We call him Joe-isms. His name is Joseph, but most people besides myself and his mama call him Joe. And so We have a list of things that he says, seriously, because they're just brilliant. I mean, seriously.
I love
But
that.
now this one that I'm getting ready to say is one of those. It took me a long time to understand. Really, it's like some of those Southern sayings. You're like, what does that mean? Like, really? And in this particular case, he one of the things he says is they can kill you, but they can't eat you. So if you think about it in that context, like, what do we have to fear? Like, that's really the message behind it is like, if they kill you, they're not going to eat you. So, I know that's a gross thing, right? Like but the point is that we internalize a lot of that stuff. Now, fear is real. So I'm not making light of fear because, if you're like a fear of public speaking, that's a real thing that like sometimes just, I think fear is something you have to practice. What's your thoughts? Like, I think you have to practice, like if you're afraid to go live, I think you have to, just keep practicing, putting yourself in that space so that you can conquer it. What is your thoughts on that? Can you practice your way out of fear? I guess is my question.
I think you can if you believe you can. So I think it absolutely helps, but you have to really start with the way you're thinking about it. So if you have a thought that's like, I know that practice is going to really help me. And when you think that thought, even that thought is going to help you lean in a little bit rather than I'm scared, I'm going to die, and I'm going to suck, and everybody's going to tell me about that. You know what I mean? So even that belief that practice is going to help or that you're learning to get better, I'll never forget one of the clients I had early on in my coaching career. And it must have been right after I took that Facebook Live with you, with you in my ear on that little course. But I had a client who was much younger. I mainly work with midlife women, but every once in a while I have a client who doesn't fit that category. And this was a guy who was 27, and he had never done Facebook Live, and he was very early on in his career. And so when I coached him through it, I happened to see when he went on live, and he did it anyway. And he wasn't as hung up on buying a course and practicing in advance. He went live the first time he did it. And I remember him leaning in, and his finger was like poking around, and he was clearly confused and waiting for, things to happen. And I just thought to myself, wow, he thinks about experience and being new at something completely differently than I do. Like, I was so worried about having the first time out look professional because of judgment. And he had a completely different approach to it. And that really left something with me. Just the importance of this thinking about practice, about the experience you want to have. That all counts too. So yeah, I do think practice is directly related to confidence. And if you have more confidence, that's coming from a thought too. So it all kind of blends in that the way you think creates how you feel, and the way you feel fuels how you show up and what you do and what you don't do.
I love that. So good. I think you basically just articulated something that we haven't talked about yet, but it's different things drive us from a fear perspective, even though the common thing could be the same thing. Like, like one of the things that I think a lot of people focus on is that judgment. Well, somebody's, and my first thought, again, this is coming though from a place of experience. So when I say this, I'm like, I know that it's still a fear factor, right? But like, what is the worst thing that's going to happen if somebody says they judge you? Like they say you have a fat nose. Yeah, that's happened. Okay. Or, your hair is sticking up and then somebody comments on it. Like seriously, like how important is that in the big picture here? Um, so I guess, I'm not trying to like make light of fear because like I say, I know it's a core issue, but do you in your experience, do you feel there's like a common theme of factors that contribute to people's fear? Like is like let me give you an example.
Carol was talking earlier about she wants to push past the fear factor, but she's in a relationship. Her husband is the exact opposite of that. What do you normally say to people? Because you have to live with people, right? And sometimes people's fears will contribute. Somebody else's fears will contribute to you feeling that fear factor too. So, what do you say to people that are in those types of situations where somebody else is in their ear making them fearful?
Well, again, it's really just understanding what your thoughts are. So if somebody else is making you fearful, they're not really making you fearful. They have expressed something, and then you have unconsciously made a decision to kind of own it, to make it your own thought. So now your interpretation is their interpretation. So I like the strategy of just writing it down. So if you start to write down, well, what am I actually thinking? And then you look at it and you're like, wow, do I like my reasons for thinking this? So you might say, well, when you see it in writing, it's so much easier than just spinning around. So you look at your note and you're like, wow, that sounds like my husband, or that sounds like my mother, or that sounds like a teacher that I had. And is that really what I think? So you want to ask yourself, do you like your reasons for thinking what you're thinking that's making you feel the way you're feeling? Like somebody else can't make you feel it. You have to think something that makes you feel it. So I think it's really just that curiosity again. What is going on up there? What am I thinking? And owning it, but instead of judging yourself for it, just be a little bit more compassionate and a little bit curious and just ask yourself, do I like my reasons?
Oh, that's so good. I love that. Oh, I think lots of times when it comes to fear, it just is a stopping block. Like it's like driving through a neighborhood and it's got all the little speed humps or bumps or whatever you want to call them. And sometimes those, they stack and they get bigger and bigger, and we let things get to a place where we just can't get over it. And we accept it. So, what happens when we accept fear and we don't move forward? I call that regret because we start regretting. One of the biggest things I want to make sure I get to the end of my life and I don't have that regret. But if that's like, how can we regret proof our life essentially? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I love that phrase, regret proofing your life. And I use that to describe so much. And maybe this is something that with age you become, well, it definitely is something you get more sensitive about it, but it's wasting time. So when you aren't doing something that you really want to do, and there are so many things in your life that you really want to do that you're not doing, you first want to ask yourself if you like your reasons, and is there a chance that you're going to regret it? And is that something that's okay with you? Is it okay for you to be stuck like this? And I love that you used grounded at the beginning of our call, because grounded, like when you're grounded, you're really literally stuck. Like if you imagine your feet in the ground, you are stuck. So do you like your reasons for not doing what it is you really want to do? Do you really want to be at the effect of fear rather than to feel fear or overwhelm or resistance or whatever it like your particular blend or combination of negative emotions are that's making you feel so stuck? But do you want that to be the reason that you don't show up the way that you want to show up? And what this is really about in this context of your world, Kim, and online business, is that you're doing what you're doing because you want to help people. So do you want to not help the people when you have the gifts and the talent and the skills and the education experience to help your people? Like, do you want this to be the thing that you don't do? Are you willing to live with that regret? And that reminds me of another thing that's really important to consider when you're in your stuckness and confusion and spin, that's based on fear, is you're spending a lot of time on the drama, the narrative, the thoughts that are keeping you stuck, but are you also spending a lot of time on the possibility that you want to create for your clients, your customers, yourself. So if you're thinking somebody's going to judge you, are you also thinking somebody's going to be helped? Somebody's going to be excited by what I'm offering, right? If you're thinking I'm not good enough, are you also thinking I might be good enough? This might be exactly what the people need because I am the person to help with whatever problem it is that you work to solve. If you're thinking to yourself, I wrote down these few things because it was important and I didn't want to forget. If you're thinking I might fail, well, are you also thinking I might succeed? So are you spending the same amount of time with the drama, the spin, the thoughts that are what you want to create as you are with the spin of the thoughts that are fueling the fear?
Oh, so good. Actually, that was one of my questions. I was going to say, one of my questions was 3 questions to ask yourself when fear knocks. And I think you basically just outlined those, which is, I think that's one of the things that we really have to, that's where the mindset comes into play. We really
Yeah.
have to own, we have to see it, and then we have to start asking, like, really, it's not about us, even though the fear is very much internalized, right?
Yeah.
But it's not about us. I have found through lots of trial and error that there's amazing things on the other side of fear if you will just embrace it. Like, seriously, make it your BFF. Now, I know that for me, it's been a process, but if, something, my business is like, that's scary. I don't know. I'm like, let's just do it. Now it's not as big a deal as it was earlier. But I think too, I've been doing this for 30 years. But if you're just starting out, fear can be one of the biggest issues. Fear of failure. Going back to one of the things that Kim Kiyosaki said this weekend at this event was there, and I think this is so powerful. She said, there is no, you can't succeed in life without failure. So embrace it. Like, things may not be perfect the first time around. You were just talking about something you threw out over the summer. And it didn't fail exactly, but it wasn't really what you wanted either. So embracing, I think, that piece of it. Do you find that what would be something you could share that would encourage people to embrace fear? What would that look like?
Well, it starts again with the mindset, and I would like everybody to remember this little word and that you can feel fear and help your people. Like you don't need to completely get rid of it yet, because as you continue to grow and learn and experience some of the stuff, you will get better at it. But you can feel fear and play that saxophone solo. You can feel fear and do a Facebook Live. You can feel fear and create something that doesn't go as well as you wanted it to go. But if failure is learning, and all you have to do is Google anybody successful, and they will talk about this. So many successful people acknowledge fear and how important it was for their growth and their ultimate success. But if you really believe that failure is a part of learning, failure is a part of growth, how does that affect your willingness to put yourself out there, right? And what would it be like for you if you really believed that failure was learning? I just think that's such an important thing to consider. The other thing to do is to think about a baby step type of thought. So you may not be ready to think, you know what, I'm a rock star. I'm gonna I'm gonna make $1 million and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that and Oprah's gonna knock on my door or send me an email, right? So maybe you don't need to think that and maybe you're unwilling to work on that belief. But what if you just moved yourself the tiniest bit forward to from I'm an imposter, I'm gonna suck, I'm not good enough, people are gonna dislike me and talk to me about my nose. And Kim, I can't believe you actually got that comment. But people say all kinds of things. So what if you said something like, and actually I did this because I was freaked about technology. I had some bad experience in 1981 in the computer lab in high school with the floppy disks. Something happened, something went terribly wrong, And ever since then, I decided to believe this idea that I suck at technology. That's literally the thought. And so I realized after I was procrastinating quite a bit with working on a credential that I was working on, I realized the thought that was going to help me move forward was I'm open to the idea that I can learn this technology. So I love that phrase. I'm open to the idea. That's just like a baby step. Insert whatever you want, that I can do this. And the other one I really love is that I'm learning. I'm learning the technology I need for my business. That thought has changed my life and changed my business. I don't have any resistance to unlearning. So if you are allow yourself to learn, if you have that kind of compassion to yourself that you don't need to be perfect all the time and that this is just a step forward, that kind of thinking will just help you lean. I don't know, I'm always doing this. Like you just kind of lean in a little bit versus recoiling in fear. It's like, I can't do that. It's too hard. Stuck, stop. So it's just a different energy because that energy comes from your feelings, which is coming from your thinking. So again, if you're curious about your thinking, if you're curious about what's actually reality, that I had a floppy disk experience in 1981, that's a fact. But what I choose to make it mean all these years later is totally optional. And your thinking is optional. I can continue to think that I'm going to suck at technology, but I don't have to. And it's not serving me, right? So it's kind of humorous. Like when I say compassion and curiosity and that kind of thing, what it means is I still think that thought, but I'm not hard on myself when I do. It's kind of like, there it is again. Look at me. Look at me thinking that thought. That's so interesting. And then I get to work. The other thing I want you to remember about the people that you're serving is how much of an obligation do you believe you have to share your gifts? If you really believe that you've got amazing gifts and talents and experience to help in whatever area you're really excited about with your business, then those people are waiting for you to get over your stuff. You need to get over yourself so you can go help the people that are waiting for you. And
Amen,
so,
sister.
so right, because you really have to think about that, and that takes it off of you because fear is very much about you. And again, I'm not minimizing that fear is scary, doesn't feel good. You know, you might feel it up here, you might feel it in your stomach, you might have to run to the bathroom, you might feel like you're going to puke. Like I saw one comment like that. Yes, but you could also feel amazing and all kinds of really positive emotions because you're doing what you want to do. Like, look how hard you've worked to get to this space of being in like an online business as an entrepreneur, and you're working in an area that you really love. That's amazing. And we're not thinking enough about that kind of thing. So the one other thing I want to mention is this and. I did mention it earlier, but that you can feel fearful and serve your people. You can feel a little worried or concerned or anxious and still put out something that is really helpful and makes a difference.
And honestly, I would say that's me a lot of the time, where I know I have to push past myself. I'm an introvert, and a lot of people don't understand that, but it takes a lot of energy sometimes for me to get myself geared up to do certain things when I would just like to, like so many people, hide their light under a bushel barrel is what I say. It's not about us at all. And if you are passionate, I've often said that, people, anybody that's listening, whether you're on the replay or watching, listening on the podcast or wherever, you have to value you first. If you don't value your knowledge and your skills and what you bring, the potential you bring, then neither will anyone else. So it has to start with you. And I loved what you talked about is, about being able to do, you can still feel fear and move forward. And, I would encourage, I love you talked about, I'm open to the idea that I can. I would like to challenge you guys to stop saying can't. Just eliminate that word from your vocabulary. Because the
Yeah.
reality is that there's not a whole lot we really can't do. The only thing we can't do is the things that we convince ourselves that we can't do. I mean, the word can't is a negative. Obviously, it's a negative word. So
Yeah, you know what I like to add to that, Kim? A lot of times, if you add yet to the end of it,
yes,
right? So I haven't figured out my funnel. I suck at funnels. That's going to create one kind of a feeling versus I haven't figured out my funnel yet, or I'm learning to figure out my funnel. It just, again, it sets you lean into what it is that you want to do versus going, ugh,
yeah.
can't do it. I'm afraid it's going to suck, blah, blah, blah.
Definitely. I love that. If going back to the can't word, if you feel yourself saying can't, just change the dynamic of it. I can't, to go back to kind of along with what you're saying, I can do this by this time, or I can do this if, just start reframing the way you think about things that you feel you can't do, you know.
Oh my gosh, I'm having a flashback to with my podcast. Sometimes I don't know why this happens, but I turn on everything and I'm ready to go, and then I check the sound. Well, and you're having a sound thing, right? It's like, what's going on? I didn't change anything, and it wasn't working at all. And I was like, oh my God, I suck at technology. Like there it was, I suck at technology. What am I going to do? I'm going to die. And so I thought, wait, because this happened a couple of months ago. I'm like, wait, I'm going to Google it. So we're at a time right now where there's so much help on Google. I just Googled it. I didn't know what the name of anything was. I didn't really know how to describe my problem in Google, and I found an answer like that. And it was so simple. I just had to plug in my mic before I turned on the program. That's all it was. And I was about ready to, lose it. And I figured it out. So Google, there's so much help on the Google, and there's so many ways to get help because we're so connected in this online space. And
Yes.
so that's something that I remind myself of too. A lot of times when you are online business owner, you're at home by yourself, like here I am, right? But there is so much potential for help and support and guidance and mentorship in the online space that is literally only one click away.
Which kind of leads me to my next question, which is I always love the stories of success. When people go from a fear factor to kicking that to the curb and what's on the other side. So, can you share, like, maybe a story of a client or yourself, whichever, where you took somebody from a place of fear, and then what happened as a result of ditching that. And, I think those are always powerful things. So I'd love if you could share a story.
Oh yeah, so I'll share one of a client I had a while ago, and she was also, she told the story on a podcast episode, but she was getting close to retirement, and she was thinking of ditching her job, which would have given her a pension before retirement. So this was a huge decision, as you can imagine, something that you've been working toward for over 20 years, but she knew that she needed to leave. So coaching was really interesting and fun. I know you don't think of fear being fun that often, but again, when you're curious, you can really learn from it. And what she ended up doing, she did end up eventually leaving the job before her pension, and she started to say yes to things that she wouldn't normally say yes to because she really didn't know what she wanted to do. And so she ended up saying yes to going to, this was before COVID, yes to going to a community meeting, yes to reading a book recommendation, yes to joining a club. She just started to say yes to more things, and it led her down a path that she would have never expected. But when you look at all the elements of things that she loved in her life, it was completely in line, and that was climate change. Now, she was a teacher. She wasn't teaching anything about the environment. She was in assessment. She was doing assessment types of things. And so it was just so interesting because when we look at what she ended up doing, now that she can see, well, I loved this and I loved this and I loved this, and it all made sense, but she couldn't see it because she was too fearful of making a change that everybody else thought was a bad idea. And the experience I can give from myself about fear was the podcast. So I started a podcast 4 years ago. I was very scared. I knew I've always loved radio, and I've always been like a talk radio person, and I felt really comfortable. Like it seemed like it made a good idea on paper, but I didn't have a good space. I ended up in the cedar closet. I was so scared. Putting yourself out there. What if I say something dumb? And all of that. What if I'm too silly? What if people think I laugh too much about serious issues? All of that. And I hired somebody to help me with the first 3 episodes and help me, get all of the fundamentals in place. And I was working on my thoughts. I'm open to the idea that I can do this. I'm open to the idea that this is going to really help people. And I did start in the cedar closet, and it's 4 years and over 200 episodes later. Um, I'm I have lots of evidence that I've helped people, and sometimes I'm still scared about how to handle a topic, or how to really how to handle a topic. What's the angle on the topic that can help people the most? But I've gotten lots of feedback now that I am helping people. I don't help everybody. Some people don't like my music. Some people don't appreciate the way I treated a topic, and they thought I should have done a little bit more. But by and large, I've helped people, and that's the whole point, is figuring out the way I can help my people the best. And my target for the podcast is women 50 plus. So feel the fear and do it anyway. That's really what I've been up to.
Yeah, and I think that's so true. Like I love that you said that, take the fear by the hand and just take the leap, right? It's really and like I said, amazing things are on the other side of fear if we can just get there. One thing you've talked about quite a few times, I've heard you use the word fun. And we talked a little bit before the show about, we're just getting to a place where we can pick and choose. Like we don't have to. We're too old for that. We gotta, I tell myself that I'm too. Even though I don't like to say I'm too old for anything, because like I don't believe that I am. But we do. We've also got to that place where like we don't tolerate certain things anymore. Like it's just. I remember as my mom got older and her filter got less. Like, right? Like as you get older, your filter just doesn't work as well. Well, we're kind of there. And so when it comes to fun, though, how do we motivate ourselves to stay in that place of understanding that, fun is a big part of where I'm at now. I want to enjoy what I do. And so if you are in a place of fear, how do you motivate yourself to look for the fun in life?
Oh my gosh, Kim, that is such a good question. I think it really starts by allowing that question. What do I love? What turns my crank? What do I find pleasant? How can I be delighted more in my life? And one of the things that has come up for me a lot is the experience of being an entrepreneur. A lot of times we say, oh, being an entrepreneur isn't for the faint of heart. And we just buy in to everybody's story that it is scary. And believe me, it is scary sometimes, but it's also really fun sometimes. And what I have noticed, um, just it's the importance of community. And that is where a lot of fun comes from for me. Sometimes I never had this much community in my life working in a bricks and mortar type of corporate setting. You meet who you meet, you go to some conferences, but the whole online experience really affords much more connection. And I think that's fun. And what I've been doing is putting myself in communities. I try on communities, right? Some of them I pay for, like memberships, and some of them are free communities. Some of them are podcast communities, and then I, type in that person's group. And I am now, if there's somebody that I think is cool and I want to meet and get to know, I like go after them. It's like, will you be my friend? I don't actually say, will you be my friend? But if I meet somebody, I send them like a note. Can we have a get to know you kind of call, a networking call? And the onus is on me to do that rather than just to wait and see who finds me interesting, or because because sometimes in groups you don't have the one-on-one experience. It's a group. But I'm trying to have more fun with people in a way that fits into my life, in a way that is really fun. I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think you just have to ask the question: is do I want to have more fun? And if you do want to have fun, you have to accept responsibility for creating the fun.
So I've always been attracted to people who make me laugh. So in fact, I married my husband because he makes me laugh every day. Like there's not a day, even when I am mad. In fact, he uses humor to get me unmad, because it works. So, and like, my friend Jillian, she makes me laugh. Like I giggle every time I watch some of her stories. And so I am definitely attracted to people who make me laugh. And if you think about it in the context of what makes you happy, and then where do you go to find that? Like, especially today where we're starved for connection, where can you plug in? Like you were talking about, plug into communities where you have that connection, or have the opportunity for the connection. But one other thing I would suggest to you that I've started doing, and it's been so amazing, is picking every Monday morning, and I just do it on Mondays. But every Monday morning, I pick somebody out of off of my Facebook page. I'll go through my feed just real quickly, and somebody that I have a relationship with, I will send them a voice message on Facebook. Just, hey, I saw you were doing, like, I sent one to my friend, Jessica this morning. She went to a Renaissance festival this weekend. I was like, that looked like so much fun. So take the time to like talk with people. And that has been such an amazing thing. One, it makes them feel valued because you've reached out, and it just feeds your soul because you start a conversation. Think about it. We don't talk enough with people. So really,
I love that.
connection with one another. I think that can be super powerful for you. Okay, so Susie, where can everybody connect with you, girl? I know we have one. I know you have something you wanted everybody to be able to have access to, which is your 9 secrets. Can you talk about that real quick, and then where can everybody connect with you?
Sure, it's just 9 secrets to get unstuck in your 50s. And you don't need to be in your 50s to get some goodness from the 9 secrets. It's just ways to get unstuck, questions to ask yourself, things to do, and you can get it at the link. And there's also the podcast, Women in the Middle, which is available on iTunes and all the places, all the podcast places, including on my website.
I love it, love it, love it. You guys definitely want to check out Susie's 9 secrets. I'm just really curious. I'm going to go check it out. I'm going to go because when somebody gives me something these days, it has to catch my interest, first. But I think that this is such a powerful topic for all of us. Let's see, our winners today of the book, Susie's book, is Paul Kirkpatrick. I'm sorry, Paul. I know your name like mine almost, and I mispronounced it. And then Carol. Carol, I'm so glad you won. So both of you guys are going to get a copy of Susie's latest book. And I'm excited that you guys won. Okay, so I think we got pulled in some of the topics. I do apologize again for my sound quality today. I'll try to get that fixed by next week. Actually, you know what? I wanted to let everybody know next week I will not be having a live show. Normally, as you know, every Monday, but I'm speaking at an event, the Brilliant event, hosted by my sweet friend Carrie Murphy. So no live show next week, but we'll definitely be back the following week with Joe Paluzzi. Who knows Joe, right? Who doesn't know Joe? I want to maybe there's people out there who don't know Joe, but Joe is the founder of Content Marketing World. If anyone is familiar with Content Marketing World, and I'm super excited to have him because he's all about the content piece, and I think evergreen content is the future, y'all. I'm just saying. So I'm excited to have him on and joining us. So Susie, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your wisdom with us today. I want to thank all of you guys that were with us live, anybody that watching in the replay. I know time is valuable, and when we have yours, We appreciate you so much. So take care
Thank
of
you so much,
yourself.
Kim. It's been awesome
Stay
today.
safe. God bless. Thank you, Susie. All right.